be here and Chris will not be here, so I think we can get.
So we have.
No, I lost. Ready for us?
Yes.
All right. Welcome, everybody. I will call the meeting to order. And Sharice, you want to take the roll?
Sure. Heidi Kelly. Here. Tim Coffey.
Dinner.
Christina Ubel. Anna Liam.
Who's online?
She is.
Yeah.
Lima Gooding. Lima. Michael Cashman.
President.
And I know Sid and Chris are not going to be here today.
Okay, do we have a quorum then?
Yeah.
We do? Okay, good. So the first thing I will do is approve the agenda and minutes from our November meeting. I'll take a motion to approve November agenda.
So.
Okay, Jim, second, Michael, all in favor?
Aye.
Good, and I will take a motion to approve the minutes from the November meeting. Christina, good, thank you. Jim, second, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, we'll move on to approving today's agenda. Take a motion for that. Jim? Second, Michael, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Get to it. So we'll move right on to Dr. Ngeti's.
Thank you, Heidi, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first official University Council meeting of 2025. So I want to again thank each of the members of our committee for being here, but also for the advocacy. I know we have an opportunity to talk a bit more about advocacy later in today's agenda, but I just want to appreciate your advocacy, your service, and dedication to SUNY Plattsburgh. As we begin week 3 of this semester, we're building on the momentum of last semester, what I would call as a very strong fall semester. But before we jump into today's report, I want to begin by taking a moment to acknowledge the loss of Jeff Spear, 1985 alum and beloved figure in our Cardinal community. For those of you who knew Jeff, know that he was more than just a coach. He was a mentor, he was a leader, he was truly a constant presence on the sidelines. He dedicated nearly 30 years to our men's soccer program, and more recently, he dedicated a significant amount of time to help shape the success of our women's team. And if you knew Jeff, his interest was keeping the ball out of the net. So he was a really strong goaltender coach. And a bit of trivia about yours truly, as a high schooler, I played high school soccer as a goaltender as well. I knew the challenges keeping the ball. Just contributions helped define Cardinal soccer, and it helped us with guiding the men's team to 7 SUNY championships and 9 NCAA tournament appearances. And I just want to mention that Jeff's legacy extends far beyond just wins and titles. He was a coach in the truest sense of the word, a community individual, someone who not only taught the game, but instilled discipline, confidence, and sportsmanship in every player that he worked with. His impact stretched across the entire North Country, from community college to Peru High School, from youth soccer leagues to the founding of the Plattsburgh Football Club. Generations of athletes have benefited from his knowledge, his kindness, and his unwavering commitment to their success. I think Jeff was an incredible example, boy number 4. And we are deeply saddened by this loss, and I thank everyone in the room and those in the community who are able to show and to provide support to the family. Our hearts go out to Jeff's wife, Dr. Anne Marie Spear, Jeff's children, his grandchild, and the entire Cardinal family had the opportunity to Jeff's impact on our campus and our community will always be remembered. So thanks for letting me take this chance just to remind you of the importance that Jeff Spear played in our community. So today I'm going to share some key updates on our enrollment progress, our budget outlook, community colleges co-location, along with some other initiatives that continue to shape our campus. And my report serves as a complement to the divisional reports that you've already received and were submitted in advance. So many ways, I'll just be doing the highlights. I'll begin with Clinton Community College. We're approximately 6 months away from Clinton's co-location transition into both 133 Court Street and Red K Hall, beginning at approximately in the middle of one, arbitrarily picking August 15th. Technically, August 16th would be the middle. Anyways, and Clinton's going to occupy 2 spaces in both Hawkins and Beaumont to support their art and chemistry instruction as well. Earlier in this process, Clinton had requested space in Hawkins to support the nursing and the EMT programs. However, a recently announced collaboration with CVPH has changed that need. Both nursing and EMT program delivery will occur at the CVPH campus beginning this fall. As I've done in the past, I want to acknowledge and thank everyone at SUNY Plattsburgh who's supporting Clinton's transition to our campus. There's been a great deal of planning and coordination that's taken place over the past year to ensure a smooth move. In collaboration with the Office of General Counsel, SUNY Central, work here is continuing to finalize what I hope is the last version of the memorandum of agreement, or we affectionately like to call it MOA, and the accompanying exhibits. As far as progress up to date, what's happening here, phase 1 and phase 2 have finished, and that was essentially the keyhole phase of moving undergraduate admissions and student financial services back into the first floor. Second floor, the global education and sponsored research has moved back in. Third floor, the registrar and institutional effectiveness have now moved into that area. On the 4th floor, we now have ITS, student financial services, and on the 10th floor, undergraduate admissions. Expeditionary studies has moved now into Beaumont Hall on the 2nd floor, and we're anticipating the initiation of phase 3 beginning on March the 17th and concluding sometime around April the 4th. And that will include the move of anthropology into Beaumont's 3rd floor, sociology into Beaumont 4th floor, criminology into Ward Hall 2nd floor, and Canadian studies to 102 Broad Street, the small house directly across the street. Red K Hall interiors have now begun, and this will help ensure that Clinton is ready for their fall semester launch. The transition is a major milestone for both institutions, and equally important, this is a huge win for all North Country students. It ensures that educational options remain in place to support our community. And again, I need to acknowledge the hard work and collaboration that's going into it and made this happen so far. So thank you to everyone. With respect to our enrollment, Plattsburgh saw meaningful enrollment growth this past fall, with our enrollment exceeding 4,500, and that surpassed our budget target and was our largest enrollment since fall. This is a very significant achievement given the incredibly competitive challenges in higher ed today and the ongoing FAFSA delays. It seems that they just keep on, it's the gift that keeps on giving. And with the changes that are happening at the federal level, and God knows, I mean that in a positive. We are continuing to see this upper momentum with our enrollment reflected in graduate and undergraduate admissions. The preliminary spring 2025 enrollment data indicate that we have exceeded our projected targets. The final enrollment will be available once we hit spring census in early April. Looking ahead, the fall 25 applications are tracking well, and we are working to maintain positive trajectory we've experienced the last 2 years. It's important to note that our enrollment achievements reflect the dedication of our entire community, faculty, staff, creating a welcoming, student-focused environment. Recruitment and retention are a shared responsibility, and I'm so very proud of how our entire campus contributes to these successes. On the budget and financial front, at mid-fiscal year, we remain in a very strong financial position with revenues exceeding projections in 2 key areas. Our tuition revenue now sits at $965,000 above target. And the important thing to note is tuition revenue supports our state operating or stateside expenditures. Another positive note, our room rent revenues are $212,000 above budget. And as you've heard from Megan's presentation on the all funds budget, this money supports our differ fund expenditures. The mid-year budget check-ins with all departments have been completed to ensure fiscal responsibility and alignment of these, basically I'll call these budget units with university priorities. Looking ahead, the fiscal year 25-26 budget process is now underway with submissions due to SUNY Central in August. Our focus remains on financial sustainability, strategic investment, and revenue growth for the campus. Some of the key highlights then beyond budget enrollment and Clinton, I'll talk about academic affairs for a moment. The Master of Social Work program has launched and the accreditation review is occurring this month. In fact, it kicked off this morning with Marcus and I, Denise Smar, going through a mock, what would you call it, a session with a mock interviewer. This will all take place during the week with the wrapping up on Thursday afternoon with the site visits report to our Masters in Social Work program. The new stock market analyst certificate and new cannabis chemistry certificates have been introduced. And the Queensbury campus is expanding program in the BS in human development and family relations. On the research grant front, we have $1.3 million in new research funding that's been secured by the Lake Champlain Research Institute. And our faculty have received over $875,000 in grants for environmental research and STEM initiatives. In the area of Cardinal athletics, our student athletes achieved a 3.2 GPA in fall of 2024, which is phenomenal. Our women's hockey coach, Kevin Houle, earned his 500th career win. It been 501 on Friday, but that's a whole different story. Anyway, Game On for Giving Challenge will be conducted in April and aims to raise $100,000 for Cardinal athletics. And this campaign is being run by Institutional Advancement in partnership with athletics. With respect to diversity, equity, and inclusion, I'm pleased to announce that SUNY Chancellor John King specifically recognized Plattsburgh as a leader in inclusive excellence at a recent January's Chief Diversity Officer meeting. The National Day of Racial Healing was held here on January 21st, 2025, and it brought the campus and our greater community members together for meaningful discussions on equity and belonging and to discuss #HowWeHeal. February is Black History Month. The campus is hosting a variety of events to celebrate Black heritage, culture, and contributions. Highlights include cultural showcases by student groups of Black Onyx, the Black Student Union, Fuerza, the BIPOC Student Union, and African Unity, as well as educational workshops, panel workshops, film screenings, and community service initiatives. Panel discussions and workshops will explore topics such as racial justice, identity, and activism, while the film screenings and performances will highlight Black storytelling and artistic expression. And you can find a full list of events for the month by visiting the DEI website. I also want to express my appreciation to the Clinton County MLK Commission and our Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for organizing this year's highly successful Martin Luther King Jr. celebration that was held on February 2nd. This is the first time this event has ever been held on our campus, and it was truly inspiring to see such strong audience attendance and participation. But most importantly, with so many of our students participating, which I believe was the entire intent moving this into the start of the semester. I want to extend a special thank you to Holly Heller Ross, Vice President Allison Hurd, Dr. Dexter Chris, and the entire MLK Singers, Heather Haskins, and to the University Council members who were able to join us. And thank you to Michael Cashman for serving as the evening's host. On the campus enhancement front, the Nest, our former Sundowner dining facility, reopened 2 weeks ago, offering a newly renovated dining and gathering space for students. I'm very pleased that the campus is touring that facility today and will have the opportunity to sample some of their fine food offerings. The Rockwell Kent Gallery just reopened after the completion of a renovation project undertaken to protect the artwork in the gallery. This was a $34,000 project funded by the Plattsburgh College Foundation, so thank you, Foundation, that installed UV filtering material over the existing skylight, and in partnership with Mountain Lake PBS, installed the new Mountain Lake PBS Learning Lab in the gallery. This is a lab space that will engage school districts and K-12 visitors, and there is a Kent Gallery reopening gala reception open to all this February the 13th from 4 to 6 p.m. On the topic of advancement and alumni and community engagement, planning is already underway for homecoming and family weekend. Pair those two together. It's scheduled for the 26th to the 28th of September. One special event that's already in the works, the 20th anniversary of Expeditionary Studies. The alumni team is also excited to partner with the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life to plan some first ever fraternity and sorority alumni reunions throughout the weekend. The North Country Celebration Award North Country Award Celebration is scheduled for Thursday, May the 1st. Award recipients in the North Country Impact Award selected by academic deans and their committees are being contacted as I speak to confirm their availability to attend and receive the awards, as we like to do in person. The celebration will also recognize over $463,000 in scholarships awarded to North Country students here at Plattsburgh through charitable gifts to the foundation. The foundation recently received the largest legacy gift commitment in the history of our university. This deferred gift to be received in the future will have a huge impact on our psychology program through student scholarships and faculty development opportunities. Another recent special gift is the Memorial Scholarship programs established in honor of Professor of Geology, Lawrence Gillette. Institutional Advancement is celebrating a very strong start to the year with $3.8 million in new gifts and pledges already secured as of January 17th. A figure that exceeds last year's total annual amount of gifts and pledges. So for some closing remarks. SUNY Plattsburgh continues to make measurable progress in important key areas: enrollment growth, financial stability and sustainability, student success, and campus development. I also want to acknowledge and share with the council that many in our campus community are feeling very uncertain about the future, given the broader conversations happening nationally. While we may not know what changes lie ahead, what remains constant at SUNY Plattsburgh is our commitment to students, our mission, and our values. This is our North Star. Right? It just bears repeating. We remain constant with those particular values. No matter what chaos or shifts occur in the external landscape, SUNY Plattsburgh will continue to stand for access to education, stand for inclusion, will stand for equity, and it will stand for diversity. We also believe in opportunity and student success. Our work in the mission does not waver based on uncertainty. It strengthens. We remain focused on supporting our students, our faculty and staff, and ensuring that our institution continues to be what it has always been, a place of learning, a place of growth, and a place to belong. These successes are a testament to this dedication of our faculty, to our staff, and also our students. As we move forward, I appreciate the University Council's advocacy in and about our community and with our elected officials that addresses these values and also our budget needs. And I look forward to working together to build on this momentum. Keeping in mind our motto, a proud past, a strong future. This is who we are. So I thank you for your time today. I thank you for your contributions to the university, and I welcome any questions.
We don't have any questions now? Okay, then we'll move on. I guess I am next. Before we hit 5.1, I just want to take care of a couple of housekeeping items. One is the Distinguished Service Award process. Michael, Sid, and Anna have agreed to serve on that committee, and I will be working with them and Sharice to come up with a first meeting date, possibly by Zoom or however they want to handle it. Is that okay, Sharice, with you?
Sure.
Okay, so that's going to be in the process. So hopefully, I would hope maybe by April, we have a new process that we can agree on so that we're ready to go in the fall and select some recipients. The other thing is, I know it's a long way away, but we need to lock down a date for our retreat. So Sharice, because Valcor books up for a lot of different events. So Sharice, if you could come up with some dates that where Valcor is available in July or August, and get those to us, and then I will send them out to you and we can see what we can all agree on. Okay? All right, thank you. So then going back to 5.1, it's hard not to be alarmed, you know, at the flood of executive orders coming out of Washington, and all variety of different areas, but particularly for us, cuts to federal funding, and how that could possibly affect the way we operate here and our students and how they are able to continue to receive their education. So that raised concerns among some of the council members, so I thought it might be worth bringing up today, and seeing what, maybe voicing some of those concerns and seeing how you're gonna fix it.
Appreciate the clarity and the.
So,
Are we
Michael,
sending him to Washington DC?
Michael, you brought it up initially, so do you want to start the?
Yeah, no, I appreciate Heidi. I think it's important to note that, with any change of any administration, there is a recalibration that occurs. We had a little bit of this conversation last year. But I think the concern and that I look at it is we as a council have a moral and ethical responsibility not to put our heads in the sand, right? There has been a direct call within the new administration to potentially defund or shutter the Department of Education. I mean, it doesn't get any more clear than that. So you can't tiptoe around the conversations. And then, adjacent or pipelined into the vast number of executive orders, 300 plus, is there's direct connections with diversity, equity, inclusion. Let's call it what it is. Let's not call it DEI. That. So I'm really concerned about lack of response that I have seen, at least, from SUNY Central coming out to the largest educational system in the country. Where do we stand at the moment? And things can change. We have TRIO programs, we have diversity, equity, inclusion programs, we have numerous grants that are going to be impacted. How is the state planning on responding if there is a change in Pell Grants, student loan structure? We could go on and on and on. So I'm curious if the president and the cabinet have received any additional guidance from SUNY Central, or if we haven't, I would call upon this council to ask for some damn guidance.
Almost want to add into that. Some of your questions may have an overlapping answer.
Any other questions related to what Michael just outlined? That
Okay.
sums it up.
Well, and I'll just start by saying that as a cabinet, this has been a very important conversation item for as we gather on Wednesday mornings. There has been guidance provided through SUNY Central with respect to they are working on this. We've been reminded that as a system, SUNY Central speaks for all the campuses. We also are in alignment with what Governor Hochul plans to do or what the responses will be. The other part that SUNY has said is that our response should always be, we stick to our values, we stick to the core things that we do, because we can't predict what could happen, and we certainly can't predict how long something, when it's put into place, will stay there. So when you spoke about the changes in the funding levels, that was a Monday decision, and by essentially Wednesday afternoon it was rescinded. I mean, there had been a lawsuit filed at 5 p.m. on the Tuesday before, so it was all a lot. Nothing came of it. Now that doesn't mean that it's over. We're not talking about that. But even within that order, as I scrambled to find out information, the monies that would have been flowing in Department Ed that were supposed to be cut off, it was quickly determined that Pell Grants didn't count. It was quickly determined that student assistance programs, for example, the ones you described in terms of out of SSS and TRIO, weren't impacted either. It seemed to be direct payment to individuals that was being shut off. So part of the guidance that's coming from SUNY is allow us to assess and make a determination as to what it is we need to do. And I can assure you that there's a lot of individuals in Albany who think about this on a daily basis. Just yesterday, a decision was made to reduce the amount of indirect costs that are returned to campuses based on grants. And to give you the impact of that, if you have a grant proposal that's funded at the level of $1 million, there could be as much as $400,000 to $500,000 indirect costs associated with that grant. what has been proposed right now with NIH, and I think it's going to spread to all the agencies, that's going to shrink back to 10%. So there's going to be a drop from 400,000 down to $100,000 in IDC or indirect costs. That's a shortfall that every single university center is going to have to look at filling in, particularly if they have NIH grants right now. So that's a major topic of conversation. Simultaneously, the other worries are around what's happening with undocumented students and how that's being addressed as well. So the short answer to your question, Michael, is that SUNY Central has told us explicitly that they are going to be letting us know what sorts of communications are basically what we should be working on, but more importantly, they've given us explicit instruction to always respond with your values, always respond with the core things that you believe in, that you're working on, and stick to it. Let your actions speak.
I appreciate that, and I knew that, you know, you and the cabinet would be sitting on your hands nor SUNY itself, but I guess I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm speaking for the collective as citizens, you know, people on the street, you know, there's a concern, right? Like, you know, the Department of Education changes and it goes back to the state, you know, and as a group that is here for advocacy, you know, I guess we're looking for some direction too. Like, what can we do to advocate for the needs of students, the faculty, the staff, the institution? The very fabric of higher education is being challenged right now. And I think, while I appreciate the reactive nature of you got to see what happens, what is the position to advocate for and the changes as they may come down the pike too? You know, because we can wait and see what happens, but I would also like us to be at least positioning ourselves to be a little bit ahead of the things that are coming down the pike, because we already know that one call is cut the Department of Education. So what do we see as the impact to that? You know, and I'm not saying you have to have the answers today. I'm just saying these are the types of things. And Heidi, this may also be something that the college trustees conference may need to respond to this year, or it may be on the agenda. I think us participating in that, we talked about last year, is even more important than ever. Because again, I'm not trying to figure wig. This is all public statements. It's all stuff that's in the news. How do we just not put our head in the sand and just kind of lift up the universal issue together?
So I think just to add to what the president said, I was recently at the Public Good U conference which SUNY and CUNY put on, where Chancellor King made in a public forum, very, very reassuring and, in my opinion, inspiring commitments to the system, to diversity, to the principles of SUNY. And so I think there are very public affirmations of that when you look at the chancellor's and system officials' public statements. And then I can share that in a briefing the provosts were given with specific regards to research that was not at this conference, but separately last week because of concerns that researchers have had. That system is being proactive through legal channels and the political process the system has. And we were actually advised that on a campus level, it can be counterproductive for us to be making statements, even emails that could be, undermine collective efforts that might be being taken at the state attorney general levels. And so and the system is being sort of very mindfully cautious. And so the absence of public statements certainly does not mean the system is being reactive. I think actually it is part of this is my personal judgment, not what was shared at that meeting last week, but a proactive stance of being very sophisticated. And I'm hearing from faculty, why are we not making more statements? But actually, I think we can be reassured there is a great measure of care being taken by system to preserve and protect our values.
And I again appreciate that. I just shared, from the larger part of it is, I think sometimes things don't always get communicated to the larger community. They see a headline. the vacuum gets filled and people are concerned.
One thing I'll mention, Michael, is that in our MOA discussions between Clinton and our campus, anytime we've tried to use the word SUNY Plattsburgh in the MOA, it's changed to SUNY. And so SUNY, we work within SUNY, and so SUNY is our, however you want to put it, our fiduciary is, we are part of SUNY. And I think to Marcus's point is that individual campuses need to be as a group in alignment with respect to where SUNY is going to stand. So we will get direction from SUNY Central.
I think that within, so I belong to a broker dealer, right? So that's the broker dealer. We're independents within that broker dealer. We can leave anytime we want to, so choose. But when something comes up that is market moving or negative or whatever, they tend to issue to the offices statements or letters or whatever that can then be shared publicly, right? So everybody has the same messaging that can go out. And I think that might be more of what Michael's trying to get across, is that we completely understand that your hands are tied. You can't come up with your own message to release. But right now you've got the Press Republican having one side of a story with nobody trying to balance that out. And so if SUNY could then come out with something that could go to all of the campuses that they can release in their own towns in order to kind of balance that information, right? Because it's all about, it's perception and who gets out there first. So I think that's kind of where you're.
And it's to educate people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, going through the process or collecting more information or what be that's a factual statement. Just, hey, we're going to respond to things as it comes out. But I think when there's lag in communication or there isn't, a full sense of what's going on, people start filling it in. The budget process when all the campuses were going through all of the budget. I mean, I applaud you. You leaned in, you started sharing kind of like, this is where SUNY Plattsburgh is with our budget. This is what's going on, regular updates. Maybe the trend line doesn't change that much, but let me just remind people. I think people need to know. And on the flip side of it, I would encourage yourself and your cabinet to actually, while SUNY is going to kind of dictate, downward, I think for us to make sure that we have our finger on the pulse is to go to programs like Upward Bound. And I'm just using these as quick, samples, is to make sure that what SUNY is hearing and feeling and advocating for is what is being felt and experienced at the local level, right? Our faculty, when they go for grants, I'd be curious how many faculty got administrative memos or executive orders that said, hey, by the way, that research that you've been working on, you can't do this and this anymore. Kind of quarrying or canvassing, below the tidal wave of what's going on, because SUNY can't keep their finger on all of it as well.
Right, and I did check with Mike Simpson today about the impact of basically the NIH. We have one NIH grant on campus. It's around $75,000. But what Mike will do for us is he will report back as to if there are any other implications in terms of the larger issue around indirects. But to Christina, your point is really important. We work as a system, and as I mentioned before, it filters right up to the governor, because the way it's set up in the state of New York is that SUNY is part of the government of New York. That doesn't mean we can't respond to local levels, but we have to await, in many ways, clean, clear guidance from SUNY as to what it is the messaging is going to be, so we're uniform across the way. I think that
Makes sense.
because I think the power of the system, if we all speak with the same voice, it speaks volumes. If we're all saying the same thing and in the same direction of, what are our values? What are we going to continue to do? The moment we splinter, then it makes it far easier for individual campuses to be looked at in a different way.
Well, that's why I said if it's handed down and then everybody disperses.
And I can assure you that we've been having conversations with the communications portion of SUNY Central. So it isn't though that we're in the dark. They're providing us the same sort of guidance of work as a collective, reaffirm your core values, restate your core values, and if you're asked, talk about your core values. You know, here's what we do. And that's why I'm deliberately saying whenever I'm in public, we will do all these things. We stand by our work with our student access. We stand by our work with diversity, with equity and inclusion. None of our programming has halted. There's no plan to halt any of that programming. It's essentially, we continue to do the best we can by our students.
So of course, the trio SSS upward bound folks are in my division. So I've been meeting with them regularly since then, just checking in on them, seeing where they are. As you can imagine, those that are on the grant are very nervous. Our grant ends this year. We don't know if it would be renewed. We don't know what's going to happen. So again, I just want to assure you that we're checking in and I've been meeting with all of them. But the one thing is, this is such a special group of people. You know, most of them have worked here for many years and are so committed to their work. And they were like, you know what, to the bitter end, we will support our students. And I think that says something about their character and their commitment to access, opportunity, and to giving the students that we service in Upward Bound and Trio SSS. You know, they're giving up their hearts, and they were like, we're trying to compartmentalize during the day. And what I really appreciate is they're like, we're not leveraging our students in this, like they're keeping them out of it. They're coming in, they're like, we're not going to weaponize our students. We're just going to give them the best service. And I applaud them for that, where it would be really easy when you have a student in your office just to go into this very negative spiral about what could happen. And instead they're uplifting the students and just helping to propel them. So.
And I can share that having said it on these communication meetings that were referenced, we do have templates ready to go, and they've been reviewed and approved by Office of General Counsel, so that this happens, we'll send it, that so that if something should happen, it's gonna be a very minimal delay, you know, us getting that out. Trying to account for as many possibilities as we can imagine, that could come our way, you know, but that the messaging has been, SUNY doesn't want to speculate and they don't want to add to the speculation, but when an executive order becomes, you know, what it's going to become, they will share. They will share. You know, they said we will have opinions and we will share those opinions. So I felt reassured that they are going to have a position, but that they don't want to add to the speculation from one day to the next until we feel more, you know, more firm. But I think we're in a good place having, you know, those templates ready to go for everything that we can anticipate approved.
And I will add, we have weekly office hours with Josh Sager, who's the CFO of SUNY. So he has weekly office hours with all of the VPs of administration and finance across the SUNY system. And his guidance wasn't a lot, but the one piece that he did share to kind of be proactive as much as we could from a fiscal standpoint was he indicated as much of your federal aid that you can draw down now, please do that. And I relayed that information to Karen and her staff. And then same thing on the grant front, as much of those monies that you can draw down now, do so and be proactive in the event something did happen. And I relayed that information to Mike Simpson as well. So from that standpoint, we are being proactive as much as we can.
I think the Beagle's also been very supportive in regards to how best to protect students, student information specifically. FERPA, and even how that carries forward to alumni information if there were to be any inquiries regarding specific students. So they have, I think, been very direct about providing guidance in advance to the situation and availability. And on the foundation front, we've also received some guidance how to best to protect scholarships programs.
Oh, that's great. And I appreciate that. Personally, I appreciate this conversation, but I can just say that this type of information is not occurring off campus. So there's that concern, and, you know, whatever way you can provide a little bit more or encourage SUNY to be a little bit more direct in getting some, you know, messaging out, I think it would benefit system. Because people are very concerned. It's just, what does it mean? I think New York has always led to protect, education, et cetera. But, everything from, taxing scholarships. So, you know what I mean? Like, but these are, these are things that are out there. I mean, there's so many things that you could bring down that I think people have such a large concern. So it's like, if the federal government isn't gonna support TRIO programs, is there an opportunity for alumni to back fund positions? You know what I mean? I'm not trying to micromanage that process, but in the mind, I think people are just trying to keep their antenna up and saying, how can we lean in and, participate in the advocacy process of it?
Allison?
Yeah, I was just gonna add that, in my area, we've had, private conversations with SUNY Central. With the Office of Diversity, Equity and Inclusion, we've had, budget meetings with our budget area to see how we might be impacted on a federal level. I added some information in my report as it relates, of course, to Title IX. When I was at SUNY Central in January, one of the questions I did have for the chancellor was what type of messaging SUNY Central would have to, like the university councils or boards of trustees. Because SUNY does have specific, like in our areas. So for example, for chief diversity officers, for budget, for marketing, enrollment and student support, student affairs, for presidents. But I did specifically ask the chancellor if they had planned on doing anything specific to university councils or boards. And he had specifically said he had not necessarily thought about that, but he did mention the Board of Trustees annual convening, which he felt like this summer's would be extremely important for people to participate in. He had also made a difference between what might occur with like a university council structure as opposed to like a county board for community colleges, but certainly that might be more emphasis should, probably just be made with SUNY Central. And let university councils or boards be. The only thing I don't think that SUNY Central has necessarily gotten a barometer for is if there's a major impact to budgets, what the state might do to backfill or close the gaps. And to me, like even in this conversation here, that is the piece that has, if it's occurring at the central level, it's not necessarily trickled down, I think, to the campus levels. And I don't know, somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is that specific piece that if this, then that, and maybe 4 different or 5 different formulas or scenarios, which has not necessarily been fizzled down to the campus levels if it's occurred.
I do think that Josh Jager and his team are working on probably models. If this, then this, that's not something that they have shared. Nor do I think that they would share until something was actionable.
I think to Allison's point is with the governor's state of the state and the budget, executive budget, nothing was incorporated that as a contingency. So there isn't. And I think that puts us behind in terms of a budget cycle for this upcoming year. Should the worst case scenario.
And it's not the only priority in the state. Right? I mean, that's kind of the overarching way I'm getting at this is, and again, I appreciate kind of just the pockets of conversation, we're not gonna solve anything today, but just kind of all the, put the antenna up and be prepared and to look for that communication. And for you, Alex, I think it's a good opportunity if you're talking with the chancellor and your colleagues is we have 64 campuses, we have approximately 10 people per council. It's a lot of people around the state to be, ambassadors, leverage us where and appropriate. So
I agree. I think and I can understand how it can feel frustrating to know that there's something looming. You see the clouds, it's, you look at the weather report and not be sure how to talk about it. And I think that's the part where I'd like to get clarity. And back to the other point about if the Department of Ed is dissolved, certain responsibilities, fiduciary responsibilities will filter down to the states. And that will become, our impact. I think where one of the statistics I saw is that the Department of Ed federally only contributes about 9 to 10% of the education of students in the United States. Well, it's a little disparate because a lot of the federal programs around student financial aid and access are 100% funded by the Department of Ed. So what I've been sort of going in my mind is the situation of deliberate chaos generation, swirl, uncertainty, and no matter how these national conversations change and swirl around us, we just need to say that our values are incontrovertible. We stick to that. So I'll keep you all posted as to what we hear, and I'm sure as a collective cabinet, we sometimes hear little nuggets of different things at different times. So. Thanks.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you. So we'll move on to the divisional reports. You've all got copies of the different divisional reports. And so we'll start with academic affairs. Did anybody have any particular questions for Dr. Tai? Do you have anything that you would like to highlight?
There's a robust number of new programs, you'll see, as well as revisions to existing programs, which is very exciting. And plans for an academic plan as part of the larger strategic planning. So that we will have a new strategic plan. Hopefully in early 2026, we'll have the next conclude of 25. And I also wanted to reassure people that system has reassured me as a provost that our faculty have academic freedom. And that should be able to continue their research, scholarship, and teaching with at the moment, no changes necessary, despite everything that you may be hearing. We're in a very privileged position, not only to be part of the system, but also a state that is very protective. I speak with colleagues around the country, that is not the case. And so as I'm sure you know from the press.
That's a good point. Thank you. That ties in with this. What's going on? Thank you. Anne, do you have anything that you'd like to highlight?
Couple of announcements. One, just want to thank the council members that were able to attend the retirement event. And I'm happy to share the news that we've appointed a development officer, Brooke Leahy. She is started February 3rd, senior administrator. Been with the university since 2018 in the Office of Global Education as a senior counselor. So we're really excited to have an alumna and also someone with such a rich experience at SUNY Plattsburgh join our group. I think everybody has the dates already for the dedication of the Martin D. Mannix meeting room, April 14th, after the council meeting in April. And then the last thing I wanted to share, just because it's super fun, we're in the process right now of confirming the North Country Impact Award recipients, basically confirming their availability to be there in person. So the academic selection committees have done their work. Barry's helping out, taking really making phone calls. And one person has been confirmed that is able to attend. So Angela Brown, class of 76, who many of you know, through her work with Hill and Holla, she will receive the award as the Arts and Sciences recipient. She got a degree in 76, back when our arts and science was a liberal arts major. That was her major, liberal arts. Love it. And some of you might have been at the Strand event just last night. It was a huge success. The event de Nord, which was sponsored by Don Hollow. 60 plus so more news to come on the other two. Their messages are out there in the way.
Thank you. Any questions for Ian? Heather, anything you want to highlight? From the report?
I think things are really just growing, moving. We have put out for our digital, excuse me, RFP. And we are investing more there this time around. We really recognize our need to be more in the digital space to really capture more prospects that way. So that's in progress right now. Which will be released very soon for bids. And just that we're working more with the Office of Institutional Effectiveness because we've been really trying to be more data driven. And so we're really looking at metrics and really, you know, with the resources we have, wanting to really base decisions on what the numbers are telling us, you know, is working. And that's really new growth for this team. And I think it's sort of a forward momentum for them. So really proud of them and continue to work with Karen's area closely. So. You take any questions?
Anybody have questions for Heather from reading her reports? So,
Okay, so highlights, I would say is, just to echo that there was a very successful MLK event. And I think one of the things that people most appreciated is that there was an event because some people were nervous about the fact that, are we still hosting these events? Is it okay to still say, you know, happy Black History Month? We had, after the first round of executive orders came out, we had a number of people emailing, you know, asking if the office was closed and asking what they could do to, you know, advocate for campus. So I think certainly some of the comments that were mentioned about people in the community who have roots, who've seen changes in the community, this was really important for them. I would say for anyone that did have an opinion about hosting the MLK celebration in February versus traditionally on Dr. Martin Luther King Day, that if you have opinions about that, feel free to share them with the MLK committee. Feel free to share them with Councilmember Cashman. You can share them certainly with our office. I think right now it was a first time event. Certainly the bonus was having students here to be able to participate. But, you know, it goes from hosting it on a day when people are sort of traditionally off versus like a Sunday. So again, if you have any comments about that, the committee would love to hear them. I just wanted to mention the Equity Advocate Program, which we've really focused on for our employees. We also want to open that up to council members. And I do remember in the past, council members have asked for additional training. So for example, you all had the Safe Colleges training, which was primarily online. But this would be additional workshops that you could do in person, you do it by Zoom. But it's live, so you're interacting with other people and then employees. And so I do believe that Sharice added the flyer that we had to the package. So if you decide you want to register, we would love to welcome you for that. And we do have a big event coming up in April, so that would just be a wonderful training, also to be able to engage with some of our current employees. As it relates to Title IX, I did link in my report the actual enforcement directive so that you could see like what are some of the differences and like the current mandates that came out. And I tried to put a little bit of language of how they would impact our office. But our Title IX coordinator, Kim Erlin, is also doing a great job of hosting different workshops on campus. Once SUNY Central comes out with more guidance, we also will be hosting some additional trainings and workshops on campus. And then just a couple of things I wanted to mention what's new. I'm really excited about the fact that we are collaborating. So DEI, our Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation team, and Expeditionary Studies is hosting a alternative spring break program this year for 3 days. So we're trying it for, you know, just 3 days as opposed to the full week. But we will be focusing on healing circles, but other things like cooking outdoors. We'll be doing some art projects. But then we're also focusing on paddle sports as well as wall climbing. So these are just really good activities to engage people in, but also to give our students an idea of what the community offers as well. So we're really excited, and it's really like an experimenting year, but we're gonna try it. And if it takes off, we'll hope to do some additional things in the future. And then I also listed a save the date. So we'll have an executive director coming up from the governor's office. And this is part of their plan to, so with the governor's state of the state address, right now she has many of her direct reports going out and doing, they're traveling and they're hosting regional conversations. And so we have the executive director for the Office of the Prevention of Domestic Violence, as well as the another office will be coming to Plattsburgh on February 26th. So this will be a presentation related to that office. I have asked them to also, in the presentation, address, like, if there are federal mandates, how would that impact New York State and the work they do? So that is one thing that they will focus on. Also, the issue of like gender identity, which could change from state to state, but how that might impact New York State as well. And then we'll be hosting a reception that will be focused on campus individuals, students, so they really want to meet with students. And then some of our interfaith leaders in the community. So that is listed if anyone would want to participate in that.
Any questions for Allison? Tough because your department is like very specifically under attack.
Yeah,
And I, Michael said it earlier, but I've heard where you really need to stop saying DEI and really start saying diversity, equity, and inclusion. How can you argue against those three things,
absolutely. And the other thing is when, like, I think we try to tell students, because this campus has not always been the calmest campus as it relates to students. And I think what we try to message to students is, let us worry about what's going on nationally, and you worry about your classes. Get your work done. Make sure that you are going to classes, make sure that you are passing, make sure you are working on your degree. Because if you don't do that and you don't get your degree, or you drop out because you're so upset, what you're doing is you're contributing to what people think about you. And so that's really important, that we have to make sure that our students feel calm and centered. Yeah. Thank you.
Dr. Ty?
I just wanted to say one of the racial healing and transformation circles that Allison led in the fall, just before the election. There were a lot of community members who are my age and older who were very, very, very worried. And it was kind of reassuring that our students were not as much. They were worried about the kinds of things that students are often worried about. Allison and the team is very, very careful, partners, friends, exams, grades, those kinds of things. I think Allison and her team is very thoughtful approach. It really, really benefits our students. And, Allison is always cautioning us, not to overly assume that our students are going to be in trauma that can traumatize them. Thank you, Allison.
Thank you. And I want to say Bridget might have it in her report, but we have a team of employees who will be going down to Queensbury on February 26th and hosting a healing circle as well. Just to make sure that we're equally devoting time to the needs of our Queensbury students and employees.
Thank you. Erin, you want to highlight a few things?
I actually have some updates,
Okay.
rather than just that. So again, if you have questions about the report, I'm also happy to answer that. And as the president said, we don't have our census numbers yet, but I wanted to give you a little bit more of a deeper dive into that. So as of last Friday, we currently have 4,278 students who are registered in classes, and that's against our budget of 361. Now, it's still some time of sugaring out, reconciling rosters, but I'd much rather be above that number right now as opposed to below it. So that's really great. And we always have to remember our total enrollment number is both new and continuing. And so we set the goal for new student enrollment at 350. We currently are at 370, so we're above that goal. But there are a couple of things that were occurring around us that had they not occurred, we would have been in a different position. And one is on the international side. So we had 40 international deposits, but only 20 of those students could receive their visas. And they had appointments. This is not like they were delayed. They found out, and all those students were from India, which I found kind of interesting. But the cohort of students who did arrive are from countries that we don't always have students from, like Cote d'Ivoire. We had some, every one of these countries was a one person, so we don't really know what trends are shifting. But we only had, this year we had 2 students from India, but we would have had 22. It's very interesting. We also had several students through our State Department programs like Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan. And we also have one student who is on asylum from Russia that he transferred here from Utica University. So it's a really interesting mix, but to lose 20 of those deposits was kind of like stab the heart of the admissions people. And as you all know, we have programs, as we referenced before, to accreditation, like our social work program. And over the last couple of years, we've had capacity within our social work program to bring in about 55 students in spring. This year, because we had larger numbers in the fall and we're also carrying the new graduate students, we had to cap that program at only 26. So we had a long waiting list of close to 100 on our bachelor's of social work online degree completion program. But again, things like accreditation and immigration are things out of our control. But we're very proud of what we were able to accomplish. One of the things, again, is we're waiting for census, we'll have our final retention numbers, but I'm cautiously optimistic based on how many of our affiliated students did this past semester. The president already referenced that our student athletes, which again is close to 400, averaged a 3.2 rather, but our trio students had an average of a 3.0, and we serve 600 of them. Of our 247 EOP students, 200 had above a 2.0, and of that 200, 130 had a greater than a 2.5. So we're starting to feel like we're turning the corner, this post-COVID hangover on the academic side. And our CAP students who look like EOP students on paper, but don't have all the financial incentives, 70% of our new CAP students achieve good academic standing. And our continuing students in the ACE program, which was our new SUNY initiative, the continuing students who we brought in last spring in that program finished the fall with a 3.3. And our new ACE students finished on average with a 2.72. And there's 215 first-year students in that program. And we talked a lot about the infusion of incremental monies into our accessibility resources office. And so with those dollars, one of the programs we started was the Atlas program this past year, which is open to any student who is registered with that office. But it's a program that really focuses in on executive functioning and academic mentoring. And so 157 students chose to participate in that program. And that's about 12% of our registrants. And of them, 92% achieved satisfactory academic progress. And overall, they had an average GPA of a 2.5. So those are all things that are telling me that we've put things in place, particularly in this high touch, student-centered services that are working for us. And so that tells me when you think about our overall numbers, that's just things we as an institution really need to be proud of. And also this past December, which is a good thing, but also has a negative thing for spring, is we graduated just under 100 more students than we have graduated mid-year over the last 5 years. So it's great they're graduating, but we're not carrying them into the spring as we had historically. And on the programming side, this week, throughout the whole semester, we continue to leverage our Cardinals Thrive campaign as really the foundation of all of our programming on all the 8 dimensions of well-being. And this week is Wellness Week. So we have daily and evening programs across campus. Just some of the ones that we're doing. We have Narcan training for students, faculty, and staff. We have an event from 3 to 5 if you wish to go over to the ACC, Dogs with the Dogs. So it's free hot dogs with our therapy dogs through University Police. We have a self-defense class. We have special stress reduction groups. We have a happy hydration event. Grad programs are doing all kinds of education for, hey, continue your degree here. lots of financial literacy events because our students have really said it is a shortcoming in our programming. Lots of group fitness, we have clothing swaps, we have teaching kitchens and a lot more. But I really want to thank Allison and her group because they are actively collaborating and have just so many additional programs that they're presenting as part of Wellness Week. But their programming isn't just during Wellness Week, you know, they're doing it year round and we really are appreciative of that collaboration. And then Wellness Weekends on Saturday with Winterfest. It's the second annual. We started it last year. But it's music, free food, the Bergie Plunge. If any of you are interested in plunging into Hawkins Pond, you know, with about 80 to 100 students, feel free to come. But now that we have snow, we'll be doing snowshoeing as well. We have fire warming stations. We borrowed the barrels from the city and outdoor games. So again, feel free to participate on Saturday.
Any questions for Karen?
I have a couple. Has to do with your report on undergraduate admissions. Okay. And I understand that kind of a balance problem. You want a lot of students to come here, but we want to maintain the standard. Now, for example, in the summer, fall of 2023, we accepted 58%. And then in 2024, the 58 went to 72%. And then in 2025, it went 76%. And I'm not being critical, I'm just saying those are very dramatic movement in, let me just finish. Very dramatic movements in the acceptance. Also, they're fairly dramatic and not as dramatic in that. Now, like I said, I understand the dynamics that, you know, and so forth. And just as an aside, you're talking about, you know, the grade average. It was funny, at Brown University, you can't get an F, you can't get a D. So their average level of school is 3.71. But anyway, my concern is, I think we have to look at this balance. Presumably, if we're getting the same caliber of students each time, if we're taking more, then maybe the quality is declining to some degree.
Yeah, I think that when you're looking at the winter, spring, I think what you primarily see in the spring are transfer students. And so they have already proven their college level. So we tend to see a higher acceptance rate and yield in spring. Fall numbers, what you know, we will sugar down to where we have over the last couple of years to be 68 to 70%, which is really where the comprehensives are. But I understand we're not bringing students in just to bring them in. We are balancing that. And when you have opportunity programs like EOP and the Cardinal Achievement Program, we are going to see higher acceptance rates of students in that average because of the lower averages. So as those programs grow, like for example, growing EOP is a SUNY system priority, you're going to see that's going to have an impact on rising the acceptance rate.
Okay, all right.
Is that it, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to thank you for spelling out what all those acronyms are. I asked her to do that last time because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. So thank you. And anybody who wants to jump into Hawkins, just let her know.
We won't charge you. I have the QR code right on my phone if you want to register.
Okay, Megan.
Wasn't any anywhere for any of the highlights of my report. But one thing I did want to call to your attention is good news regarding the renovation of Algonquin Dining Hall for our undergraduate admissions. That has been awarded to Architecture Plus, who was the same firm that was doing all the work at Red Cake. So a lot of that data and effort has not been lost. They know who we are. So that will transfer to this project. Although the project is different, they still know who we are as a campus, so I think that's important. The other good thing to know about that project, that it is ahead of schedule, so now the completion date is set for June. Which is great. That doesn't always happen in the construction world, it's usually the other way around. That being said, that also means that the demolition of Banks and Adirondack Falls will be done by June 27th too. So they're trying to align those two projects together because we don't want to have a demolition of a building impact a newly constructed area. That would be kind of counterproductive. So that is positive news regarding that. Other items, there's many projects going on, as you can see. We did have another high temp hot water break recently impacting Yoakum. So we are working on repairing that. We do have Wilkins Mechanical here. They were on site relatively quickly to get some temporary heating to that building. It should be fully operational by the end of this week. And then they will be on site later in the spring when temperatures warm up to start digging and repairing that main line. Unfortunately, some of the things that they will have to do will be where we just replaced a new parking lot. So that's it's a little pill to swallow, but that's the way it is. Then I would just highlight the Cardinal Nest that you'll be all viewing and President Kennedy had talked about earlier. That was a huge project, a multi-year project that had come to completion. There are just few punch list items that are going on now. So that was really beneficial. And I would like to highlight all the hard work that our internal control and risk management office is doing, ensuring that we get our employees compliant with all the required training. So there's been a huge effort out of that office to ensure compliance. We are gradually getting there, is what I will say.
Did anybody have any questions for Megan on her report? Okay, thank you. Moving on, Kalima, are you online? No, okay, so we'll skip the Student Association President's report. And moving on to Sandra, faculty.
I just wanted to say a few things about the conference that Marcus just mentioned earlier that I attended this weekend. Marcus was there were probably 4 or 5 other faculty from Plattsburgh there. This was a conference about the idea of public education as a public good. And it started with an idea of the president of the SUNY University Faculty Senate. And then it ended up as a partnership between SUNY and CUNY to put on this conference. The majority of the attendees, I think, were from SUNY and CUNY, from, faculty, staff, administrators, but there were all outside, and then there were some outside partnerships. It was a very positive conference, though clear acknowledgement of the environment that we're living in. I mean, which is part of the goal of the conference when it was being set up, was understanding that there are attacks on higher education that have been going on. I mean, it's not just what's going on now. It's been going on for years. And so it was really a very positive environment, and hearing the chancellor again, talking about how much SUNY cares about diversity, equity, inclusion, those sorts of things. I, as a sociologist who works in that area, I need to keep hearing that. I've told Alex the same thing. I need to keep hearing that what we're doing is going to be supported and protected as much as possible. But so hearing the chancellor say that, but I agree with others of I actually want him to put it in writing and put it out as a press release. I would like to see that level as well, but still hearing that is very positive. There were lots of different sessions on lots of different things, and I just wanted to bring up a few of them just because to me it's fascinating to hear what's going on other campuses. And some of these I was hearing that it's actually coming to Plattsburgh. So Cornell, somebody from Cornell was talking about this contribution project, which apparently is coming to Plattsburgh. And I wasn't sure, I was guessing it was your office. Which it started as seems like a pretty small thing that they put out this call to students, basically asking if you had $400 to contribute in some way, what would you do with it? And they had this, I think, 2 or 3 week period where students could submit their ideas. They had 130 some submissions. They randomly, and it sounds like random numbers generator, picked 50 of them. They had a funding source and the students were given the money to do this and doing all sorts of projects, from planting some apple trees on campus to show students where they come from, but students can also go pick the apples, to things like putting together care packages for unhoused people in the downtown area. So lots of things like that, just some incredible projects. And I guess there's like 5 campuses are partnering now, and Plattsburgh was listed as one of them. That's going to be part of this. So it's like hearing about something like that's just great. It's a small thing, but I think it can have a big impact on students and on the environment. I went to a couple sessions about higher education in prison, because there is a group on campus that is working on putting that together. So I went to a session that was more broadly SUNY and CUNY, kind of talking about the history, about what's happening on a variety of campuses. A lot of them are community colleges that have been some of the first. One of the things that was mentioned is for a lot of campuses, not all, but for a lot that tie into Pell. And so over the years, when there have been times where prison populations have not, they've been able to access Pell, and then they're not, and then they are again. So that's always a concern. But hearing about what some campuses have been doing, I was surprised to hear, because so Potsdam is one of the only SUNY 4 years that has it. So as I said, most of our community colleges, the degree that they get through Potsdam is actually a sociology degree, which I had no idea, because I thought it was mostly like general education, that sort of thing. But they're actually doing a sociology degree, and I believe they were the campus that said they had 84 students currently enrolled in the program. Which, I mean, that's quite a lot for one major. And obviously they have to do gen ed, they're doing lots of things, so there's lots of people who are teaching it. And they are partnering because there's 4 universities in that area, so they actually have people from, it's not just Potsdam that are teaching in the prison system. But so hearing about that, and hearing obviously some of the problems that they're dealing with, but also from some of the faculty about just how amazing it is to teach students who come to those classes so prepared, having read every single thing that they were given. And you've got to be on the ball, ready to teach them, because they want to talk. And that, being faculty here, I can't actually count on my students to come having read what was assigned. So it sounds like kind of an amazing environment. So it was great to hear about some of what they've been doing, what they're finding out, but also the challenges of, say, there's no electronic access, so no email, no internet. Every document that you are going to use, whether it's a PowerPoint they're going to hand out because you can't actually display it, DVDs, all of that, because you can't show anything from the internet. That all has to be approved in advance, long before the class starts. So there are challenges to teaching it in that environment, but it sounds like it's pretty amazing for the faculty. And obviously there are all of the positives that come out for the community, for the students who are in this classes. So just, I'm excited, even more excited about this coming to our campus, and the work that's being done to support a program on our campus for that. Some other things that I heard about that I would be interested to see if we could find out about same sorts of things on our campus. So there was a presentation from Albany looking at their students there who are using the Excelsior Scholarship and those who aren't, and looking at things like how long do they stay, how many are leaving, is there a difference between those who are on the Excelsior Scholarship and those who aren't, as to whether they continue through college. If they do leave, how quickly do they leave? So they found out, for example, that Excelsior students, actually for those who don't continue at Albany, they tend to leave after year 1. Other students who aren't on Excelsior tend to stay longer, even those that leave. They tracked where the students went, and they were able to track a lot of them. And found Excelsior students in particular, it's true of a lot of them, but students who leave, but Excelsior students in particular tended to leave to go to another college, often closer to home. So that seemed to be an interesting difference. And I would be really curious to do something like this, because they had to do a deep dive into data from a lot of sources. But they're calling on all campuses to dig into this data and find out what's going on in your campus. And I would be very curious about a difference between, say, a school like Albany and Plattsburgh, as to how students may be different, whether they're using the Excelsior scholarships or not, and how those sorts of things of how long they stay and where they go to when they leave if they don't continue. And then also just some ideas that would have to be like system-wide that I think were interesting, of community college that is now providing one meal a day to every single student on campus. So a way to get them to campus to deal with the food insecurity issues. But again, that'd be a big lift to do something like that. But not, and I will tell you, so some of the administrators are, Wendy Gordon really liked that idea. So you may be hearing from her about how could we do something like that? Oh, what else? That's a lot. I mean, again, there were lots and lots of ideas, and to me, a big part of what I think was so great about this conference, as I said, is that there were just so many positive things that were going on and so many ideas about, even though we are under attack, higher education is under attack, there are so many campuses that are doing so many positive things, and we're demonstrating what they're doing to show how important higher ed is. So that's just a sampling, because there was lots of sessions I couldn't go to, but just a sampling of some of the amazing work that's being done on campuses and some of the research that's being done. So that's it.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, I don't think Bridget, is Bridget on?
Bridget's there.
Yes. Bridget,
Hi,
hi.
how are you all?
Good.
So I have just a couple things to update in terms of what's been going on in Senate for the last few months. So we are in the process of doing Cardinal Core assessment, and curriculum review is moving forward as usual, very smoothly. We are notifying faculty to when our curriculum committee review dates are. So hopefully we can continue to get proposals in efficiently and through before summer session comes along. We had two new ad hoc committees that were kind of requested both from Senate and from administration, from academic affairs, to address some issues and ideas, really, not necessarily issues, but more ideas that came up during the fall semester. So we have a academic calendar adjustment ad hoc committee, and their charge is to assess what our current calendar is, to look at other models both within the SUNY system and at regional comprehensives, and to come up with some alternative recommendations or ideas for how our calendar can be constructed, really, again, with the thought and process, is there a better way for us to lay out our calendar that will increase student success and faculty's ability to, retain students, retain their engagement. So that's one ad hoc committee whose work is hopefully going to wrap up by the end of the semester, but it may move into fall. And then the second ad hoc committee that we have put together is a graduate education policy and procedure ad hoc committee. Now, in conversations, especially with members of academic affairs, graduate admissions, graduate educators, there seems to be a desire for just greater support, structural support for the development within our graduate programming. So the goal of this committee and the charge of this committee is to be assessing what we currently have for a policy that impacts graduate education, to see if there's adjustment to current policies that need to be made, to be looking again at our regional comprehensives, both within and outside of the system, to see if there's any policies that we could be adopting that would make this work more effective, more efficient, and also looking at our specific procedures, best practices that we may have in place, so that as more faculty are considering developing graduate programs across our three colleges, that we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time they're starting to work on that curriculum development. So that is two new ad hoc committees. And final update I have for you all is we passed two policies. One which came down as a request from SUNY system last fall. In our December meeting, we passed the credit and prior learning assessment. This plan in which SUNY was requesting from all of the centers in comprehensives was to look at how we are able to assess different different types of learning that can happen outside of traditional educational spaces. This policy brought together policies we already have in existence that bring in credit from things like military experiences and other certifications that are have already been part of our when we have transfer students coming in, part of our process with assessing what their current credit count is. The biggest change with this policy was to incorporate a broader review that allows for departments to look at work-based experience or other experiences, professional experiences that would lead to the same, kind of understanding that a student would gain in a particular class. That part of the policy was left very open for departments to be intentionally so, for departments to be able to develop the mechanisms of assessment that fit their discipline best. So that also in that policy outlined the procedure for how students would be requesting for that assessment to happen, and how faculty or administrative assistants who is working in this would make sure they're compensated if they're off contract. The second policy, which we just passed in our February meeting a week ago, it feels like weeks ago, but it was just last Tuesday, was the learning management system usage policy. So this policy had two parts to it. The first part was requiring for all those teaching fully online classes to utilize our Brightspace, or we didn't call out Brightspace, we called it learning management system because we know those things can shift. So we wanted this policy to be able to be flexible if SUNY asked us, hopefully not, but asked us to switch from Brightspace anytime soon. But we had noticed, and why this policy came forward was, again, trying to develop consistency for students and to help make sure that we are following best practices within our own systems guidelines. So making sure that all online courses are operating through this space is not only beneficial for students, but also for security measures. There is a clause within it that faculty can request with the permission of our CIO to use different systems. For instance, our education faculty very often uses Google Classroom for their learning management system because a lot of primary education systems use that learning management system. So it's very beneficial for our graduate students within our education programs to have that ability to experience that LMS during their time here. The second portion to that policy was trying to develop some best practice framework for face-to-face classes and how to incorporate and use this learning management system within those spaces. So it was suggested within the policy that all face-to-face lecturers should have a Brightspace presence. On that Brightspace page, at minimum, they should have their contact information, who they are, where a student can contact them, what is their office hours, an ADA compliant version of their syllabi, as well as a grade book or some way in which students are utilizing that grade books, or faculty utilize that grade book space to convey progress to students. And again, we heard from students, this came forward kind of as a request from academic affairs after numerous kind of students coming forward, just frustrated with lack of consistency, transparency, and just feeling insecure without having that information available to them. So both those policies have passed through, and we'll be working with implementation, especially the latter policy with the technology and enhanced learning division on campus of how do we help faculty who are haven't yet developed grade books or need help getting their documents to be AADA compliant. So making sure that we have those systems of support. And that's it.
Any questions for Bridget? Thank you.
Yep.
Michelle can't join us this semester. She's She's in class during this time, so, and we didn't get any report from her. So Christy, CSCA, what's going on?
Hello, Happy New Year. We started off 2025 with a recognition award lunch. We held that in January and we had 90 members who had 10 years or more. We did that as a grant with New York State and CSEA partnership, and we are going to continue to do that every year with anniversary dates to celebrate our members. And we hosted an annual banquet that was actually this Saturday at the Adirondack Room. Very good turnout, about 85 people. And we plan on having another meeting, one in the spring, one in the summer, and one in the fall. And we coordinated 6 Excel and Google workshops that took place over the winter break. And Tel has agreed to do more after spring break. So we're looking forward to that. And I just wanted to thank Strategic Communications and Marketing. They made our new logo. And this was the award that we gave to the members at the recognition lunch with the logo and their name on it. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. And, yeah, so.
Any questions? Yes, thank you. Any public comment? Right, any old business that,
I just have 2 items, maybe I can't think both of them right now, but the first one, talking about naming the School of Business. I know that it's not easy, maybe it's kind of a dead duck, is that a fair statement?
that, yeah, I'll turn that over to you.
Definitely not that bad.
Well, I live to see it. is the question I have.
Will you? I certainly hope so. Yes.
Good answer.
No, there's not a.
Okay.
We have talked to a
No,
number.
I, no, believe me, I understand it's, not an easy issue.
Big number.
Yeah, oh, the other one, yes. I think at one time we were talking about allowing maybe members of the community to walk at, Field House or something like that. Is that ring?
Walk as in commencement.
Well, you know how people walk, you know, right?
All walking,
Right.
like using the tracks.
Oh, use the track.
Well, I thought at one time, maybe you said, maybe I'm mistaken, that some college facilities would be available at some point in time for people to walk.
I know Memorial Hall is access is controlled to members of our community, but I don't know what the status is of the field.
Children do indoor soccer and I walk around the track when they're doing indoor soccer. at the field house. I don't think it's. You have to rent that space, so I don't think at this time we have open to a designated time to go walking. But I do know scheduling is tricky because we have it not only for our institution, but for those outside things and then local K through 12 schools as well use it for their.
I mean, it's not a big deal, I just.
But we
think it's
do.
Kind of a plus.
Yeah, we do offer fitness membership for outside community members for our memorial hall. A pretty, I think, fair rate. So I think if a community member was interested in using our facilities for a very fair rate, they could do so at Memorial.
People do walk Hawkins. They walk Hawkins, they walk the building, they walk the stairs. And I've often heard for the people who do walk it is because of the even floors and not wanting to trip on the sidewalk. So.
And I will add that this past summer, I started walking Wednesdays at noon, which we have like when it's nice out. It's not going on in the winter, but when it's nice out, we have about designated 10 to 20 people every Wednesday at noon. Right, start right outside of Kehoe. So if you're interested, it's open to anybody when the weather's nice and it's like a little mile loop that we do around.
So Jim, has the Champlain Mall cut off access to mall walkers?
No, it hasn't, but, it's kind of boring, I mean. To sit there. But
They should offer shopping incentives or.
What the pretzels are.
Carve up.
Yeah, right.
Motivates you.
Okay, any other old business? Any new business? All right, I'll remind you that, we will be heading over to Angel for a tour and menu tastings of the three new, food facilities over there, which we're looking forward to. And, with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Michael, second, Jim, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the next time we get together will be 15th of April, and that will be that dedication for Marty afterwards, so. 14th. 14th. April 14th. Thank you. Oh, I knew there was a familiar date. Okay, you all done?
Um.